is the Conservative Colonel Podcast with Harrison Dawes, where one man stands against the rising tide of liberalism. This officer in the battle to preserve our nation is the Conservative Colonel.
Nothing ends here. Our hopes and our journeys continue.
And here's Harrison Dawes.
Welcome to the Conservative Colonel Podcast. I'm your host, Harrison Dawes, coming to you from Wayne County, Mississippi. How's everybody doing? You guys are having a treat this week. We are going to be having 2 episodes because of my vacation last week. I tried to record an episode at the condo I was staying at. I spend about a year at the beach, or a year. Once a year, I go spend about a week at a beach. And it was about that time. So we went a bit earlier this year than normal. And for some reason, this condo we were staying at this year had some of the worst Wi-Fi I think we have had in our 6 years of doing this. So I wasn't able to record and upload a podcast. We tried to. It was all over the place. Not the best episode I'd produced. I went back and listened to it, and I was like, oh, this is awful. I'm breaking up. You can barely hear me. So I decided to come back and redo it again a bit later on in the week. So, yes, I'll be having the episode release Thursday, which is the one you're listening to now. And we're going to try to have one released Saturday. I do like making sure that y'all continue to have great content. So I take it very seriously if I miss a week to try to make it up to everybody. So this is me making it up. We will be having 2 episodes of the Conservative Colonel Podcast this week, one on our regular day and one Saturday. And please make sure to go check us out on your podcatcher of choice. Our main platform is Spreaker, but we're also on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music and Audible, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Listen Notes, and Good Pods. Now, on Tuesdays, we release the video format of the show on Rumble and YouTube. So we'll be having a good time. We are getting close to the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel Podcast, or the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel Podcast. After this week, we'll be filming episode 20, which is just mind-blowing. And funny enough, this week I'll be, of course, right now I'm recording our 18th episode, what you're listening to now, but then I'll release my 19th episode. But we will be filming the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel Podcast this week. And if you want to know more about that, we're going to be having an ad go out there soon, but you'll actually get to hear the ad this episode. But if you want to know more about the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel Podcast, well, you're in luck because I'm about to talk about it. For the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel Podcast, going out at 9 a.m. July 4th, we will have Ryan S. Walters on, historian and author from Ellisville, Mississippi. He is the author of The Last Jeffersonian, Grover Cleveland, Apollo 1, The Tragedy That Put Us on the Moon, and The Jazz Age President, Defending Warren G. Harding. He has been on many other podcasts, radio shows, and such, like the Right Side Radio. He has been on the Right Side, our friends over there with Jack. He's even guest host, if I'm not mistaken, which I got to get me some guest hosts lined up just in case something like this happens again. That way I can make sure that y'all get staying on our schedule. But, he's also been on a History Unplugged podcast, the Dennis Prager show. He's also written for a lot of great magazine and articles with townhall.com antiwar.com, the Confederate Veteran Magazine, and the Abbeville Institute. We'll actually bring that up in our conversation because of the Abbeville Institute is a great resource of intellect and history. But we'll be talking about one of his articles there that we'll probably go into. And he's also been a guest speaker at the Abbeville Institute Summer School. But we are happy to have Mr. Ryan S. Walters on. He's an independent historian. I love that. I am trying my best to be an independent historian as well. It's going to be a great episode. As I said, I'm filming both episodes this week a day early. I usually film on Wednesdays. I'm filming a day earlier this week so I can have tomorrow free to film the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel podcast for a couple reasons. We're not going to be going too deeply into any news. So I want to go ahead and get it recorded so I can make sure it goes out on time. But also not only that, but to kind of help with his schedule, my schedule, and kind of make sure everything goes off without a hitch. I wanted the 25th episode to be a big one. So I'm asking that when I make a post about the 25th episode on our Facebook, we will be making a post on our website soon. We might have already have. I don't think so, though. But we will be making a post on our website. Just hit blog, hit podcast news, and you'll get to see it. Share that out. Share out as much as you can because I want this to be our biggest episode. This is our We're Here to Stay episode. I want us to make some big waves. I honestly think this is going to be one of those episodes that I'll look back in a couple years and say, this is my top 5 episodes I've done. I take a lot of pride in my work here at the Conservative Colonel podcast, and I think we've produced some good episodes and even a great episode. But I think this one's going to be one of those that live on for a long time, this 25th episode, just because of what we're talking about. We're going to go into the Constitution. People have asked me for a long time, what is a Jeffersonian conservative, what I kind of describe myself as. And we'll be going into that and the Electoral College and much, much more. Whatever Mr. Ryan wants to talk about, we'll be kind of going into. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great episode. It's going to be a blast. I don't know how long we're going to go for. It might be it will probably be our longest podcast episode to date as well. So y'all will be getting a great episode July 4th at 9 a.m. Of course, on all the platforms I told you about before. I'm looking forward to this. Honestly, it's something I've been wanting to do for a while. And I finally got in touch with Mr. Ryan and just kind of was like, hey, I wanted to let you know that I've made a podcast for politics, and I really want you to be on it. Me and him have talked history many times, but now we are diving in to what surely will be a fantastic episode of the Conservative Colonel podcast. So I'm hoping you guys join us for that. Again, one last time, July 4th at 9 a.m. Make sure to share it. If you hear the audio play, I did make an audio commercial that you will get to hear in this episode. We'll post that, share it out. I'm wanting a very, very big crowd for this episode. I think it's going to be fantastic. But with that being said, let's go into the news, shall we? So we got just a bit of news this week, not much. More of this week is going to be opinion-based. Just because of some of the stupidity that our president has done, and of course things hitting up with the presidential debate. We even have some news for us, our Mississippi viewers, Mississippi listeners, with Roger Wicker coming back into the spotlight. I thought we were going to be done with Mississippi politics for a while with our legislative session ending, but no. Old Roger Wicker's giving me something on a silver platter. So, and the first thing I want to talk about is going to go to immigration. So, President Biden's administration is planning more changes to make it easier to get quicker asylum and processing for new immigrants, which is not a bad thing. I don't trust Joe Biden doing it, not by a long shot. I've even heard that Mississippi might be on the chopping block for that. We might go into that with the Roger Wicker part because it does. I will touch on that with him, but he is going to be making some new policy changes. It looks like. So I actually know some immigrants that came over here illegally when I was a baby, and I grew up with their daughter, and me and her are still pretty good friends. And we've talked about the immigration system in America definitely needing some work, that's for sure. But, what Biden is trying to do here is basically buy votes. I'm just going to come out and say it. He wants to make sure that these people that are trying to come over here for a better life always feel indebted to the Democrat Party. They always vote for them. They always make sure that they support them because they're the reason they get to come over. And it's such bullcrap. They first off, they're allowing illegal immigration, which people are just coming to America, no checks on who they are or, their criminal past. Crime rates have definitely gone up for some of these dangerous illegal immigrants. And the funny thing is they don't want us to call them illegal immigrants anymore. It's not like they're breaking the law or anything, right? Well, they are. I hate to say it. I don't mind saying it. I'm going to keep calling them illegal immigrants. There's nothing wrong with a legal immigrant. Come over here and make a better life for yourself. That is the American dream. If you work hard enough, that you can provide a good life for your family and pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the American dream, ain't it? But states like Texas and funny enough, New York, thanks to Florida, sending illegal immigrants their way, they don't have a problem with us sending it to red states because they want to change red states, but they don't want illegal immigrants in blue states. Oh, we're at max capacity. We can't take it. Send them here. Well, that's not the reason they don't want to take them. They don't want to take them because these individuals have not been vetted. They're causing crime in the streets. There's a young woman that was murdered not too long ago that made national news. Not to mention other crimes of absolute awful people, individuals, evilness. I'm not going to say it out of a risk of some of censorship hitting my way. I'm not afraid of censorship, but I'm definitely not going to say this word in case you were listening to this during the car ride with your children. But I think you know what I'm kind of going at, how these men treat women. And again, preference. There's nothing wrong with legal immigration. We do need to fix our immigration process. It takes these poor individuals a lifetime to get in, or, they have bad things happen to them while they're waiting, stuff like that. I understand that. People want to get over here and live the American dream. But we cannot allow illegal immigration because for every good person you bring in that will do great things in this country, you bring in two bad people. Now, there's no statistic I can go by, but honestly, it looks like they're just trying to make leeway. It helps drug trafficking as well. We have to put a stop to it. Now, again, they've targeted Texas and Florida. Now I hear that they're targeting Mississippi, and that might be another episode down the road to talk about. But he's trying to make it quick, easier, not because the process that needs to be changed needs to. But he's making the change simply so he can earn these people's votes, which is annoying to me. He's trying to buy votes. He's trying to bribe people to vote for him. And that's all the Democrat Party does. That's why they want less strict drug laws, or California giving drug addicts needles. Here, have a great time. They're going to remember that in the next election. These people helped me get the drugs I seek. This person helped me get into the country. these people help me stay on welfare longer. These people, make it so I don't have to work. They're bribing people is what they're doing. And I guess Joe Biden's got more worried. I guess he's not going to be able to defraud the system, the electoral system. I guess he's not going to be able to do election fraud this time. I guess they got scared after the last time where it was pretty close to being proven. I still believe that Joe Biden did not win honestly. There's just too many variables that I just don't think a lot of people looked hard enough to find evidence. And we might do a whole episode on that down the road where we talk about that in the upcoming election cycle. I have a couple episodes planned around President Biden, Trump, the 2020 election, what happened, and of course the debates now, which we are going to get into in a second. But yeah, no, he's just trying to make it easier to win votes, and that really honestly sickens me. But Democrats are going to Democrat, liberals are going to be liberals. They they don't know how to be a statesman where you serve the people, you serve your couple years, you get out of office, and you let the next generation take over. They don't know that. They want to stay in power forever because power corrupts. And then you get scared of losing that power. And that is what our politicians, Republicans and Democrats, struggle with. Mitch McConnell, anyone? You can't tell me that it's not extremely past time for him to pass the torch. He got into office in what, the 80s? He should have been out by the 2000s at the latest. That's 2 decades. 2. If you can't do what you want to do in 2 decades, get out because you're not doing a good job then. And I'm being extremely lenient with 2 decades. I honestly believe in national politics, 3 terms as a representative of the House, 3 terms as a senator. And if you want to try to move up the food chain, that's fine by me. That gives you 2 4-year terms as president, or you can be a secretary of state. There's many other positions that aren't elected that you can try to get into. But if you can't do what you want to do in those amount of years, get out. Get out because you're not helping us. That's honestly what Joe Biden fears. Or not really even Joe Biden, because I don't think Joe Biden knows where he's at, but liberals, the Democratic Party is fearing losing that power over the legislative branch. Not the executive branch. I had a brain fart there. They're worried about losing that power. So now they want to make sure they keep it. So they're playing these underhanded tactics, playing with these poor people's lives, by the way, making them chests or pawns in a chess game that they don't even want to be a part in. They just want to come in and make a better life for themselves, the most of them for the most part. But that's Joe Biden. But, speaking of immigration, y'all didn't think I was going to let him off the hook. Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi. My senator, my representative. He has doubled down on support for the Ukraine and Israel. Well, you might be asking, Harrison, what's wrong with that? Well, here's my thing about it, and I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in there. If you didn't want to hear my 2 cents, I hate to tell you, but that's all this show is, so you might want to go somewhere else if you don't like it. Roger Wicker, if you did not listen to one of our better episodes, I'll say for sure, is our Roger Wicker Exposed episode, where I do a lot of research on exposing Roger Wicker as the rhino he is. He has spent billions of Americans' money, and I don't say America, the country, American, the people, because we're paying for everything instead of focusing on the border, which I don't like having to spend money on anything. But if we're going to spend money on anything, it should be on the border to protect the borders of this country, to make sure its people stay safe. maybe, yeah, then we look at our immigration policy, making it better, and making sure people can still get over here. We don't want to be an isolated country that only allows Americans in. We want a safe country. But instead of spending money on that, Roger Wicker wants to continue to send billions of dollars to the Ukraine and Israel. Congress approved recently, I can't remember exactly when, but $95 billion aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, with $61 billion of that being directed solely to the Ukraine with no oversight. Mind you, we voted that down. How insulting would it be to know where our money is going with how it's being spent over there? That would be awful, wouldn't it? To not have accountability, to not let the American people know what their money is being spent on. Who needs that, Roger? But yeah, he's doubled down on support for it, that he supports continuously sending more money to the Ukraine, Israel, and I'm guessing Taiwan. Now, he specifically said in Jackson Friday morning last week to the members of the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership that, he's basically doubled down that he's going to support Ukraine and Israel. Didn't mention Taiwan, but I mean, Republican rhinos don't look hard for reasons to spend American money. I guess they're getting more money off the side. That's the only thing I can think of. But yeah. Just more money, more and more and more money, And the people of Mississippi can't be mad. Y'all voted him in again for a 5-year term. We will not get rid of Roger Wicker for 5 more years. Unless he dies in office or steps down, which I don't see either happening, honestly. He's old. But I mean, let's see here. Let's look at old Roger Wicker. What his age is. He is. It keeps going directly to my episode, which is awesome. 72. Huh. He's my grandmother's age. I almost kind of forgot about that for a second. He is just a couple months older than my grandmother. So when our 25th episode comes out, July 4th at 9 a.m., the next day he'll be turning 73 years old. By the end of his term, he'll be going on 78, 77. That's way too old to be in office. My grandparents, neither of them would dare sign up for a 5-year contract right now, because you at that age you start having to think about what comes after you, your family. So they're more focused on providing for their family now than themselves, which is very noble. But Roger Wicker, let's not pass it on to the next generation. My time's not over yet. Let's see here. How many terms has he served? His current term ends next year. So yeah, he will be in office till 2030. I will be 31 years old by the time this man hopefully gets out of office. He's held this position for 16 years. 16. 3 terms. It blows my mind. He just doesn't stop. It's like, why would I? And I mean, he won the incumbency, which, let's be honest, in Mississippi, that's all you need to win, because no one is going to vote for a Democrat to replace Wicker. We want to be the conservative state, but we're not really, are we? We're so worried about losing a seat that we vote in people who aren't really Republicans, or we have Republicans go into office that aren't really Republicans. They understood they weren't going to get elected as Democrats, so they switched over, but without changing their ideology. But Roger Wicker, if you thought he might have learned his lesson from people calling him out during his nomination, running for the nomination for the Republican Party for senator, nope, he's doubling down on it. He is telling us in a not so subtle way that he's going to continue to spend more of our money. He is going to want to continue to send weapons and money to these two other countries. Now, I know a lot of Christians want to support Israel, and so do I. But we are broke. We are $trillions, trillion with a T, trillion dollars in debt. We cannot afford to help another country right now. We are struggling to protect ourselves, to control our own borders. Now, if we had money, maybe, but we need to focus on paying back our debts ourselves and stop being the world's police force. That's not our job. America never was supposed to be a global police force. And I'm sick and tired of us acting like it. But, no, not Roger Wicker. He's going to throw us all into debt. The country that my generation is going to inherit, because I'm a Gen Zer. Millennials, God bless them, I feel bad for them. They never really had a chance to take over leadership. Gen X doesn't really have a chance to take over it. What's before Gen X? Is it the baby boomers? What was before Gen X? The baby boomers, yes. So the baby boomers are still in control of the government. Think about it. Our president's a baby boomer. Mitch McConnell's a baby boomer. You might have a couple Gen Zers in there, but the millennials are sprinkled in there. They're very rare. But it's actually past time for Generation X. My father's a young Generation Xer. He should be they should be getting ready to pass the torch. Now, I'm not saying Gen X's time is out, but the millennials, we should be seeing a more millennials than Generation X. Now, I'm not a problem with that because the millennials gone piss poor bonkers. I don't. Oh gosh, I feel bad for people who are in that generation. Maybe one of the craziest generations I've ever seen. Gen X, though, we're taking the cake and running with it, aren't we? Us Gen X or Zers. But that's how the transition of power is supposed to be. A generation passes it on to the next. But these baby boomer generation, which, aren't a bad generation, they did accomplish a lot. But, the people that have gotten into power from that generation have held on to it. And again, I know a lot of great men who are baby boomers. No problem with that generation as a whole. But the people they put up in power in the 80s, in the 70s, are still in power. That's, Mitch McConnell is going on, 40 years now? That's way too long. We should have passed the torch to Gen X a while ago. And we had a lot of great Generation X. I'll mess with one of my friends, Senator Chris McDaniel. He was a great Gen X representative. And I have no doubt if he won lieutenant governorship, he would have passed the torch. He wouldn't have tried to continue to run things. If my dad ever got into office, I have no fear that he would pass the torch and continue passing on the running of things, because it's only supposed to be a couple years of service. Let's look at this. Chris McDaniel, he served 16 years in the Senate, which is about the term limits that both me and him agree on. And he was going to move up to lieutenant governor, of course. But, let's see here. I'm trying to see where his political campaign started. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, I mean, he wasn't in there for too long. He knew, and I think he's even said it, he knew his political career was going to be wrapping up soon. Anyway, he fought a great fight. I admire Senator Chris McDaniel a lot. Go check out Chris McDaniel's America, by the way. Great show. He's going to be the leading force, inspiring Gen Z to hopefully take back the reins of this crazy crap that's been happening. But, he wasn't holding on to power. I honestly believe he was very relieved when he didn't have to hold on or didn't have to serve. Now, I think he has a server's heart, don't get me wrong, but he also enjoys being a father, a good Christian man, and he's still working for the conservative movement with his show. But people like Mitch McConnell, who's been in for 40 years, like he got in the 80s, guys. My father was like not even 10 when Mitch McConnell got into office. And those are the people I'm talking about. People who've been into office for 40 plus years. And honestly, because he is not, I wouldn't be mad if Chris McDaniel ran for another office. He hasn't reached that term limit in my mind yet. He's reached it possibly in the Senate, but there's other things you can do. But, Mitch McConnell has served in one position for that long, not to mention his other political careers. But, it's crazy. Roger Wicker is just pissing me off. He's been in office for how long? I know he was in the Mississippi Senate in the 70s. I've luckily been able to delete Roger Wicker from my mind for the most part after doing that episode on him. Great episode. Go back and listen to it if you haven't. It'll explain my problem, but we got to get rid of these career politicians, the people that like die in office or stay in office until they're sick and can't do it anymore. That's not how this is supposed to run. You're supposed to pass it to the next generation. Gen X should be in power right now, getting ready to fix whatever's wrong with the millennials and pass it on to them before they pass it on to my generation. I know a lot of people in my generation, including myself, are getting sick and tired of how this country's being run, and we want to take it and move it more conservative, especially us here in Mississippi, and I hope to see that. But yeah, Roger Wicker, he's okay with spending more of our money. Why not? Why not? All right. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back. We're going to talk about the presidential debates and one more thing about President Joe Biden. So I will see you all in a second. Hi, everybody. This is Harrison Dawes from the Conservative Colonel Podcast, asking you to join us July 4th at 9 a.m. for the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel Podcast. We will have on historian and author Ryan S. Walters to talk about the Constitution. Is Jeffersonian conservatism true conservatism? And many other topics. We hope you come out and join us July 4th at 9 a.m. the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel Podcast. If you want to learn more about the Conservative Colonel Podcast, please go to www.conservativecolonel.com for more information. Have a blessed day. God bless Mississippi, and God bless America. Ooh, that was a bit rougher than I remember when I recorded it. We definitely might be recording that. But who knows? I might just leave it as a first take and let y'all enjoy the fact that my phone goes off the first second of that. But yeah, it's great, ain't it? But again, we do hope you joined us for that special episode. I might even put a place on the website where we talk about some of my favorite episodes. I think that would be pretty neat. We also have a email the host section on our homepage. Just scroll down till you see George Washington. And if we ever have a relaxed episode, we'll be doing those. But I tried to do that a week ago. Didn't really go my way. So until we get a bit of a bigger following, we might not do those episodes, but you can still email the host and I can talk about it on the show. Of course, that is conservativecolonel.com, our official website here. But now it is time to talk about the presidential debates. The presidential debates this year will be on June 27th and September 10th. I think the June 27th one is going to be from CNN, and the second one is on ABC. Now, I love that they're not even trying to give it the old, one has a conservative, one has a liberal, maybe one that's neutral territory. No, which, all media has lost sight of their job, and there's not really any fair shake place anymore. But I love there's not even one. They're just like, it's all liberal. We're all going to trash you the whole time, Trump. It makes me laugh. The good news for CNN is that this will be their highest rated anything for a while. Probably exactly 4 years. Since 2020. Bless their heart. They're struggling. That's why I love independent media now. I'm going to call it like the Tucker Carlsons, Daily Wire, Louder with Crowder, The Midnight Ride. Is there's just such a market for that now. And, here's just the little Conservative Colonel podcast trucking our way through. But so yeah, the debates are going to be happening soon. We'll definitely be covering them. Let's just make sure I'm getting this right. Yeah, of course, the one debate is the week the 24th episode of the Conservative Colonel podcast comes out. So I might be late that week, air on the 28th or the 29th, so I can watch it and make that the debate episode. Simply so y'all have time to enjoy it, watch it before the 25th episode of the Conservative Colonel podcast. But we'll cross that bridge when it gets there. But Joe cracks me up because he's like, Joe, I beat Trump twice last year. I took him to town, or last term cycle. I took him to town. I beat his butt. And if he wants to get beat again in a debate, have at it. And I couldn't help but laugh at that. Like, I have the exact quote. And no, I wasn't going to be this petty and look for the exact quote. But now that we're here, I have decided to, yes, be that petty. Because it just makes me chuckle, along with the Animal Planet. But that's going to be a topic for a later episode this week. But yeah, I have it here somewhere. Where are you? I know I have you saved somewhere. With my luck, I've passed it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hasn't showed up for a debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. Biden on Trump as well. Just some other random quote I found. How many times does he have to prove we can't be trusted? We're going to actually save that and let it be its own little thing for a second, because I've actually just given myself 2 great talking points for our special episode this week. One on good old Joe. Never let me live a moment down where I can not have any content. I can't thank Joe enough for that. So Joe's saying he beat Trump in the 2020 debates, basically, which couldn't be farther from the truth. The thing that really swung in Joe's favor is the fact that he's a dementia patient and he has no idea what's going on. And my favorite Joe Biden quote is he looks over his wife and says, "Jill, where are we?" We're in the White House. You're the president of the United States, Joe. But yeah. The reason he did well in those debates was honestly because he had no idea what was going on. He was sitting there like, oh. If you're not watching the audio, or if you're listening to us on audio, which the majority of our listeners are, and I prefer that, honestly, I just made a very weird face that y'all will turn into a meme one day. I know it. But it's so funny, Joe is. And Trump answered back at him, and I want Joe on a drug test beforehand because they definitely popped him with pills before the State of the Union, which I have to agree with. Joe was unusually there in the moment. He knew he was at Congress. He knew he was at the State of the Union, which shocked me. But then again, he's also given that speech 15 times. Go listen to Jack's excellent episode on that when it happened on the Right Side Radio. It's beautiful. He fully calls out President Biden, and it's fantastic. And I cannot wait to do my similar to exposing Roger Wicker episode, this Joe Biden episode. I'm in the process of making and producing. A lot of stuff is going to go into this, but yeah. So the debates are going to be interesting. Trump definitely has to change his tactics. He can't attack Joe, the person on stage. He has to attack Joe, the policies that he's put in place, the economy, immigration, stuff like that. Stuff that just proves this country's gone downhill the past 4 years. That's where Trump needs to focus, in my opinion. And, of course, Joe will just sit there and lie. So Trump will need to have facts ready. If not, you can tune into our debate or not watching, but our episode where I will definitely take it apart and prove that this is just utter bullcrap, whatever Joe says. But it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it just because of the craziness I know it's going to ensue. It's going to be bonkers. That's honestly the reason I'm looking forward to it, is that and that's awful, isn't it? And that's not what you're supposed to go to a debate, not to yell at each other like we're middle school trying to settle a debate, but it's supposed to be, people that are trying to win you over to their way of thinking, not a shouting match, and definitely not a match where you're watching a senile man get confused and then another younger but definitely older man rip them apart. And again, I am a Trump supporter, but he is in his late 70s, and I talked about it at the beginning of the show. It's time to pass the torch, and I don't have a bad thing against Trump. I'm going to be voting for Trump, but people are shocked to find out that I was probably a bit more on Ron DeSantis' side early on. He was a good, strong Florida governor, and Florida was definitely been leading the charge in conservative values. He's just not a talker. But and I mean, I might do an episode on Ron. I feel like he got the crap end of the stick because Trump attacked him, so all these Republicans attacked him. And I kind of want to see if that holds water what they're saying about him. Because again, I'm just now getting into politics. I've mentioned it a lot. We've been doing this podcast for about 7 months now. And I'm still in my infancy stage. I've had these opinions for a long time, but now, I'm learning, I'm expanding, I'm reading the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. I'm studying the Founding Fathers, and that evolves me as a individual, as a historian, and my political beliefs, because I'm going to go with the Founding Fathers, how they saw us, how they saw the government. But pardon. But Joe is always good for a quick laugh, at least. And I can't thank him enough for that. But yeah, no, as Trump said on his Truth Social, let's get ready to rumble. It's going to be interesting. We only have a couple weeks until that June one. Now, I can't believe the September one feels so far off, but it's not. But, only have about a month or a little over a month for that one. And then we have like 2 to 3 months before the next one. But it will be fun. It will be some great episodes. But, speaking about President Joe Biden, let's wrap up tonight's episode with our last story. Joe Biden's Morehouse speech. How he basically describes America as the biggest racist country on the planet. He spoke at an all-black college, which he knew his audience. I'll give him that. But all it can make me think of is that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. An exact quote by Joe Biden that you can go check on. Joe Biden has always been a race baiter. He's always tried to make a community, a race, feel like they have to vote for him, not because they agree with his values or country. It's more of, well, he's not a racist. Well, liberals throw around that word so much that we're not even using it to describe people who are actually racist anymore. Go look at what Joe Biden said. He's actually a racist. We're just doing it if we don't agree with you. Oh, you're a racist. You're a homophobe. You're a blah, 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 blah. You're anti-trans. You're, what do they call the trans? The transphobic. You're all this and that in a bag of chips. Well, you're just saying that because you can't win this argument or you don't have anything else to say. You can't really win this, so you're just throwing that out there. And that's really what Joe's saying is, hey, I can't win this race about making it about race. So, yeah, he basically was race baiting, basically doing the 2020 version or 2024 version of if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. I might actually play that at the end of this episode if I can find it. Let's find it. It's just like it's still crazy that he actually said this. But I paused the recording just to find it, and I found it. And I'm so happy with my life right now. But we're going to play that in the episode. But yeah, no, it's basically more race baiting at this college. He's trying to get these young, impressionable people who are just about to start off in the world. He's telling them that, you're about to go out there and have the hardest time of your life because of your skin color. And if this was the 1950s and 60s, he would be right. But it's not. We have made very impressive movements to make sure that discrimination is not happening. Now, all over the world, discrimination still happens. Discrimination because of gender, discrimination because of religion, and race. It's an awful thing. but he's trying to play on the emotions of the past. This old white man, who is for segregation, might I add, is telling you, the African American population, that this is the most racist country in the world. It's bullcrap. It's a lie. This is nowhere near the most racist country in the world. It's laughable. You have degree programs, you have scholarships, you have jobs that are just looking for African Americans. All this stuff that is specifically tied to your race. And this is the most racist country in the world? Okay. But yeah, no, I listened to the speech. I'm not really going to go into it deeply. It's laughable, honestly. It's Joe being Joe. Again, just trying to make sure he keeps the African American vote, which, if I'm not mistaken, he's actually losing a bit of. That will be interested. I'll be interested in that in the polling numbers. Is Joe losing more? Because I think he's lost more of the women, and he might be doing this to try to get more of the black vote. He might not. I'll have to go look into that, but. It seems like to me Joe's just doing the 2024 version of that quote, famous quote. And I think this will go down as his famous quote for this year is just all he has said about this. Like, let me see if I can find an exact quote. People have said this is just very bad race baiting on social media is where I saw it. He's going back to the George Floyd incident, saying that, everything is against you because of your skin color. If you don't need any proof, he's like, black people getting killed in the street. A trail of broken promises still leaves the black community behind. Okay, well, real quick, time out. If the black community is still being left behind, but you've been in power for 4 years, Obama was in power for 8, how? We've had a black president. You cannot tell me the community is still being left behind after these movements. Trump cannot do that much damage in 4 years. So if the system is broken for African Americans, maybe we need to look at the people that have been in the system for 50 plus years, huh, Joe? Joe's been in the system for a crazy amount of time trying to lead politics as a senator. 50 plus years. The man's in his 80s. 80. He's been in politics since his 30s. Maybe even his 20s. Isn't that scary? And if it's not his fault, but he's trying to blame the Republicans, you were here, Joe. You never made this a big issue until recently. It's because you want the African American vote that you're trying to race bait these poor, impressionable young men and women into voting for you simply because you want them to be scared that they're not going to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. One of his biggest things, he's like, he said, to be a black man who loves his country, even if it doesn't love him back in equal measure. They don't see you in a future of America, but they're wrong. The crowd, of course, went outrageous for this comment, clapping and stuff. It's crazy that he says that. Again, during the Vietnam War, you could say this when we were sending black soldiers off to fight for the country. But, all Vietnam veterans were horribly, horribly disrespected as veterans. I know a man who was a Vietnam vet, Mr. Butch Harris, who's also on the Conservative Colonel website. In my profile picture, he's the real-life Colonel Reb. He was responsible for hiring some of the first black employees at the University of Mississippi. He said it wasn't just a white and black issue. They all just hated Vietnam veterans. And I'm not saying that there wasn't some racist stuff going on back then, but in today's day and age, no, it's not so bad. The whole system is not racist. The whole government is not racist anymore. This is just more bull crap from Joe Biden. And now later, social media has deemed this crazy for Joe Biden trying to frame the United States as the most racist country in the world. And they thought meaning black students. Adam B. Coleman on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, at wrong speaker. Now, I haven't looked into his stuff. I'm not endorsing him, but this is what the comment he has from this. Imagine working hard for years to graduate from college, and Joe Biden shows up on your day of your celebration to remind you that you're a victim and America doesn't love you because you're black. Someone else said this sums Joe Biden up perfectly as race baiting. Someone even said Joe Biden is the most racist person on the planet. And I'm just reading some of these quotes that Fox News has pulled up. This is race baiting and it's disgusting. And someone, made a good point. Mr. Daniel. Biden insults us by seeing all minorities as victims incapable of competing and all whites as oppressors. Never mind the countless have benefited immeasurably from American principles, our free market, and yes, democracy. Are we a perfect nation? No, but show me a better one. All nations are going to have a past. All nations are. And it is our job to make it better. Better doesn't necessarily mean changing the foundation that our founding fathers gave us, but improving upon it, actual improvement. And we have made some actual improvement. And you cannot tell me we haven't. This nation continues to be one of the best on the planet. And the states are supposed to continue to experiment, be their own experiment on how the country should be. Again, it's it's crazy that these poor men and women, these young adults, worked so hard for years to go out into the field of their choosing for Joe Biden to come in and just crap on their parade by saying that everybody's going to hate them because everybody's racist in this country. And you're all victims. Bye. Have a great time. You're not. If you work hard in this country, you'll get everything you deserve. The problem with our generation is not a lot of people want to work. Just telling it how it is. But if you work hard, you'll get what you deserve some way, shape, or form. Either a good family life, you'll get to reap the rewards of your hard work in some way, shape, or form. And you might be someone that can inspire change. But we're not going to go too deep into that this episode. We can have a whole episode on Joe Biden's race baiting and racist behavior, and I plan on having one. Because I feel like what he's doing to minorities is just criminal. Just making them feel like there's just nothing they can do in this country. When this country is the land of opportunity, we wouldn't be having an immigration crisis if it wasn't the land of opportunity. Because people want to come here. People want the American dream. And the American dream is still worth fighting for me. Thank you guys for listening into this episode of the Conservative Colonel Podcast. I hope to see you all again Saturday and again next Thursday. Remember to check us out on your pod catcher of choice. Our main platform is Spreaker, but we're also on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music and Audible, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Listen Notes, and Good Pods. On Tuesdays, we also release the video format of the show on Rumble and YouTube. We'll be releasing this episode a bit early, probably Friday, to keep in touch with the fact that we're going to be releasing 2 episodes this week. But until then, I will see y'all when I see y'all. It's been good. And I'm just going to leave you with the words of President Joe Biden. God bless Mississippi and God bless America.
problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have